Okay, thanks so much for that great intro, Lydia. We are, yes, Shara and Martin, and we're here today to give you a bunch of interesting experiments that you can try at home today, if you like. All of them can be done for free using a normal machine and basically using Discord or a browser. So before we kind of get into that, we just say like who we are. So Lydia did a great job of introducing us, but I don't think we need to say too much more there, do we, Mark?
Good.
All good. Okay, so we'll just move on from there to say that since we we got together, so we're actually a couple, and since we got together in 2018, we've been making all kinds of little experiments together, including the Kafkaesque alchemical word puzzle game Vitriol that you can play on iPhone. And we got super into, about 2 years ago, we got really into experimenting with procedural generation and artificial intelligence. And we got into that to start with making Twitter bots. So we started to use Twitter bots and tracery. We made one that made recipes for us, and we would start, we actually made a bunch of these recipes. And then we also made one called High Cookies, which makes haiku fortune cookies. So you can follow that one on Twitter if you like. And I made one yesterday for NarraScope so that you can see what kind of things it brings out for you, what kind of fortunes it tells that you might be interested in. So this is how we kind of got started. And then we started getting into a little bit more, we kind of got into artificial intelligence using the InfraKit demo. It used to be called Talk to Transformer, but now if you look up InfraKit demo, you'll be able to instantly just use artificial intelligence to get ends of writings. So I put this one in yesterday to see what kind of things it might put out. And I tried like 10. This was the best one. So I hope you enjoy it. This is me, my computer generated simulacra of myself, all devised by the computers of the TV show. So we started getting into that, and we got so excited and so interested in how all this stuff was going. And the taste just made us crave more, this little taste of artificial intelligence, so much more. So we ended up working for ProcJam in 2019, and we remixed all of Aleister Crowley's tarot cards into GPT-2, and also used Martin's ephemeral to generate illustrations using magical temperatures and all kinds of things. We went really wild with this one and had such a great time creating new tarot cards, new tarot card meanings for every single tarot card, that we just were completely bitten by this artificial intelligence bug, and how much interesting, inspirational, and like just seemingly magical things you can get out of working with artificial intelligence and writing. So from there, we got so into it that we just ended up having to take it further. And so that's what we've been working on for the last few months. So this is not one we still haven't gotten to experiment one yet, by the way. But this is our current startup we're working on, writewithlikeit.com, where you can train your own brain, or you can use the brains of other writers and basically write in anything you want and get suggestions from artificial intelligence. So it's really fun to use, and it's kind of our whole thing at the moment. But that's not what we're here for today. What we're here for today is to talk about 5 AI experiments at home. And like Lydia was saying that she was going to take a lot of notes during the talk, I just want to reassure you, you don't need to take any notes, because we're going to be showing so many things, and all of them have links in them, and it might be a little bit stressful, so I've made a page. So if you go to tunguska.ai/NarraScope, Mara, you might want to just type that into the chat for people. That has basically the links for every single thing that we're doing today, and also a bunch more links. Interesting newsletters you might like to follow, extra tools that you might find interesting, anything like that. So it's all just there. It's all ready for you. So don't worry about taking notes each time. Okay, so from there, we will move on to the start of our experiments. And I just want to mention to you here, folks, this is our first time doing something in GatherTown. So please be gentle with us, because we're going to be hot swapping back and forwards a lot between our two computers to try and showcase these experiments live. We're not just using slides, we're actually doing everything live. So this is going to be the first time we're going to hot swap over to Martin's machine, and he's going to talk to you about procedural items with ephemeral. So I'm going to stop my share.
Just going to keep things alive here. Okay, so I'm going to start my share. See if that works. Okay, and Does it keep my microphone on? I hope it does.
Looking good, Boo.
Looking good? Okay.
Yeah.
Then, okay, the first experiment is, so the reason why it's kind of even more dangerous to run these experiments live is because a lot of AI is probabilistic, so we don't really know what we get, and there might be some embarrassing things happening when we give the wrong prompt or get the wrong answer, but not with ephemeral. The ephemeral is actually the safe choice. What is ephemeral? It's just, I did not like that Tracery uses JSON. So I made a little, a different interface for JSON for Tracery in order to make it possible to write in a more fluent way. But similar to Tracery, that I just assume you know, because there was a talk about it yesterday, and I think there's a talk about it at every NarraScope and every roguelike celebration, and it's a tool that people hopefully know. It is a grammar system for recombining text blocks, is all that it does. And I will just show you how this one works. And I have a tab for this open. It's fully open source. You can download it on GitHub. You can use it on GitHub and download it on GitHub. GitHub has this fantastic function where you can create a website on it. And since it's only JavaScript, it just runs in place, basically. Beautiful. All it does is, instead of having to write JSON, you write a little text file with different lines of text. And here, Heister is, for example, a category, I think is the correct term, that has 4 alternatives: Naomi, Frank, Jimmy, and Esther are all Heisters. And the system, just like Tracer, will pick when you use this category in a rule, it will just pick one of them, which is what I'm doing here in this second thing. Origin, just like in Tracery, is the starting node. And if I click run here, then it will unfold whatever I've written here. So at dawn, heist crew member 1. Yes, we've been watching Money Heist and got somehow very much into heists back then, years ago. At dawn, Esther and Frank got ready for the biggest heist in their lives. Frank was nervous. So I'm using this tagging mechanism that Tracery also has to make sure that crew 1 and crew 2 are always the same people in this little snippet of text. But the nice thing is you can just keep clicking run, and it will just always give you a new unfolding of that. And we can, of course, add something. Crew 2 was nervous. Crew 1, them down. Huh? So they're really caring heisters. So when Esther's nervous, Frank calms them down. Same with Jimmy and Esther. And it's always, she's very nervous. Oh, finally Frank is nervous. Okay. But of course, you can also use this for something more useful in a game. For example, Shah at some point, as a test thing, wrote a weapon name generator, or weapon generator, I would say. It just is like, it writes this like flavor text for one little weapon for your classic CRP. For example, it can create Esina's Whisper, the twisted dart, blah, 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 a little twisted dart, or a Demon's Bane, very, very RPG. It's obviously a very strong weapon. It's a Morning Star, okay, but sadly less useful than think. So yeah, that is all there is. You can edit it here. It has syntax highlighting. Here is the link. Play around with it, make something crazy. We made a lot of Twitter bots, and I actually, this is the wrong tab in this tab. I actually uploaded one of them here as an example. This is our fantastic 5 Sparrows on a Vampire, named itself, so that's why it has this weird name. And it creates a new dish for you, and plus instructions on how to eat your dish. So that is something you can use as a starting point. Okay, back to the slides. That was experiment 1. Try it at home. It is totally safe. But of course, while we were working with these classical procedural systems that are a safe bet, because they will only produce something based on what you have put in. So they are super predictable in a way compared to they are probabilistic, but they are predictable in that they will never do something that you haven't told them to do. That is, of course, only one way to go about it. in the last years, there has been a huge revolution of in the deep learning segment, especially in text-to-image and text-to-text models. And there have been models that have been used to write books, like now I, of course, don't have my notes here, and I can't tell you how the book is called, but maybe we put it in the resources later. Pharmaco AI, that is the name of the book. Google it, you will find it, Pharmaco with PH. Or games have been made, like the infamous AI Dungeon, that is, well, it's like, I will talk about the challenges of working with AI and the issues that it brings a little bit later, but games have been made with procedural language, with language models out there that are based on so-called transformers. And there have been a lot of products that have been launched, like Sudowrite, for example, is maybe the biggest one out there, that use these language models as a kind of, that create a playground where you can play around with language models. This is very similar to the InfaKit that Shah was talking about before. It's just a commercial application of that, and it does a lot of additional stuff, of course. All of these models are based on statistical analysis of language. So what they do is they take a large chunk of the English language and run a statistical analysis of what more or less syllable follows another syllable over that. And then you have this huge chunk of data that if you trigger it the correct way, produces something that is more or less grammatically correct English. And that is all it does, but it has no mind of its own or anything. I mean, maybe it has in the sense that it has the probabilities, but it is not directed at anything. It's just random. It rolls a lot of dice, basically, to produce incredible English. But if you use the data correctly, you can still steer it in a certain direction, which is a part of the next experiment that Shah will show after I have handed over the screen. Stop screen sharing. Okay, so, to you. Oh, it's still sharing. What?
It's because I'm sharing.
Oh.
So back to me. I hope the mic is picking up okay for my voice already. And we're going to have a quick now at character creation in Collaboratory for our second experiment, number 2. And a reminder, tunguska.ai/NarraScope, you can get all the links to everything. So M. Charity is an AI researcher who makes tons of really cool things. And we are incredibly lucky at writewithlikeit.com to have M working with us for the last few months on making things along with us and helping us to further the goals of AI writing for everyone. And so one of the things that M has been working on over the last while is a character creator. And this is basically works really cool. Grab the link on the resource page, and it works through Google Collaboratory. So Martin's going to show you a little bit more in Google Collaboratory later with something that needs a little bit more fancy business, but this is something that doesn't need too much fancy business. So I'm going to show you this live, how it works. Hopefully it was working earlier, and let's hope it's still working. So you can see I have, all you have to do when you come to the page is you just click run. All this stuff, don't worry about any of this. All we need to do is click run. If it doesn't work, we just disconnect and run again. So if you're scared of code like me, don't be scared. This whole thing works totally fine. All you need to do is run. We go all the way down to the bottom once the running has happened, and then we can write in a few lines to create a character. So wrong copied text. So my text is going to be, Shar was relieved to find that the character creator loaded on this sunny Sunday afternoon. Because she was prone to anxiety about things like that. In general, she was a bit of a worrier. So let's see what kind of things the character creator can get from this. So M did a lot of work using tons of inputs like Spark Notes, Myers-Briggs, different things coming from astrology places, all kinds of stuff from like TV tropes, from all places where you can generate anything to do with character traits, character names, personality, anything like that. And it pulls information, it pulls who the character is from what you write, and then it pulls characteristics that might connect well with this person. So all you do is just write a few lines and it'll give us a bunch of stuff. So let's see if, I don't know if we agree on this about me, modest and unassuming. I don't know. I don't think that's very me, but perhaps I am more dominating, aggressive, and quick-tempered. A plucky novelist, charismatic, and bad things happen to me, so I use it as an excuse to do bad things to others. All checks out. Totally legitimate, totally normal. Does anybody who's watching here want to give me like a name of a character and we can like throw something in, or a little line about somebody? Because I would love to try it with something that isn't just me being nervous. I will wait for one sip of water and then I will just write something. Okay, Jekusheka as a name. Okay, put names in there. Jekusheka was a lonely hunter from the far sides of the Martian plateau. Anything else about Jekusheka that we can put in? He was learned and wise, but had few people to talk to. Chronic insomniac. He found it hard to get to sleep with all those thoughts weighing his brain down. Okay, that'll be enough. I'm so good at typing, and yeah, there we go. So we just say enter, and then the character creator will take the name. Already it knows Jekusheka is the name, and it will, in a few moments, going back to being a warrior, yeah, I think it's a thing about writers. So let's see what it says. Warmly enthusiastic and imaginative, stoic, seek solutions to problems and express themselves in art. Outside the box. Lives on a desert island. I mean, close. Mars is pretty close to a desert island, I think. So the idea behind this, there's also a little thing at the top where you can see what each of these emojis stands for. They all relate to a source that the content is coming from. And basically you can choose if you're like a writer and you just, for example, when I was writing Divinity Original Sin 2, there would be days where I would have to write perhaps like 7 dwarves in one day, where we would have to or they would all have to have their own personalities and different things going on to talk about. So when I needed to think about a new person, this would have been super useful for me, because it's not that we take all of these things to pull it forward, but it's like just an idea. It's like the inspiration, it's the spark, it's the thing that gets us to go forward and to get the next piece going. So I would take 2 or 3 of these, make it a person, and roll from there. So you're absolutely welcome to come on in anytime you like. Try this out. You can also let us know how it goes. Em is still working on it, and will continue to improve and make it even better. But it's already really, really good. So big up to Em for this. And I am going to bring us back to the slideshow now. And let's try it. Well, we already did that. And now we're going to be going on to experiment 3. So I'm going to be handing back to Mar for training GPT-2 using your own writing.
Okay. And sharing. And there. Okay, so what I said before is that these language models speak the English language and that you can also train them. So what we then experimented with next was using our own writing to train them on our own text in order to create more of our own writing. Now, I'm not a writer, Shar is. So when I say own writing, I'm her writing in this case. I will again switch to one of these collaboratory notebooks. So if you haven't worked with collaboratory, it is a Google hosted, there is an open source version. It's actually a so-called Jupyter notebook that you can run on your own server, even on your own computer locally. And it's an open source environment for making a little bit Python programming a little bit more accessible. And for some reason, all of these all of the people work in Python. Well, the reason is that it has very good math libraries. So this notebook that I'm using now, notebook is just, it's basically a program as a web page. This notebook that I'm using now was originally made by Max Wolf, and I've adapted it for several workshops we've been running where we worked with writers to teach them in a long workshop how to incorporate, how to train these language models that speak already English with their own writing in order to produce language models that are so-called fine-tuned on they're writing. And what you do is here, this is a rundown. I'm trying to explain it in chat, but how these notebooks work is you have a little bit of text, there is an explanation, and then you have this little run button, and if you click it, then it runs the Python code that is in here. And you don't have to understand the code in many cases. Here, this one downloads a couple of Python libraries, then it downloads a language model, in this case, the tiniest of the GPT-2 models, so an outdated model in tiny. So that means that our results will not be groundbreaking, but it's going to be fast, and that's why it's good for a presentation. You can run bigger notebooks here, bigger language models here too. Then you can upload a file that is here. The Art of Time is a novel that Shar wrote several times, but never, never called it finished. What you do next is you fine-tune the model, dashing in your own text into the existing model that speaks English so that it speaks your English. Why am I insisting so much on English? The best language models out there are actually in Chinese. I don't speak Chinese, sadly. The second best language models are English. You find models for nearly every other language, but they have varying levels of quality. And if you work in a language, a file or a text that is not English, strange things happen. Okay, then you load the model, and then what you can do is you can put a start of a sentence in, or a full sentence. For example, when the renegades arrived. Now I know that the renegades are a part of the book, so I know that they derive at some point somewhere. But let's just see. Then you can set some parameters. Temperature is basically how wild the text will be. I set it to 0.95, which is like pretty wild, but not all out crazy. And these are quality things that we don't have to set right now. And then I press play here, and this freshly trained language model provides something in return. And let's see if anything of that is gold. Sturgeon's law is very important in all of this. 90% of what all language models produce is kind of not of the highest quality. But when the renegades arrived, they were told that the guards would make every attempt to remove them from the land. The next day were to begin the siege preparations. Oh my God, the guards really don't like the renegades. No other words of the plans was heard from the guards until the dark hours of the next day. Well, it's very dramatic what happens when the renegades arrived. I have also prepared another starting sentence that can do something like this. Of course, used concepts that I know are in the novel, but you can also just say at night they. At night, they ran from the factory to get out of sight of the guards. The guards are really playing an important role here, only to be stopped by a messenger from somewhere far away. Upon arrival at Hatch City, which is actually a city from the book, they found a servant there with a small child within. So a pregnant servant, I guess. He pulled his hood loose over his eyes and pinioned the hood, revealing the child to be Schwer. So the within is not pregnancy, I guess. Otherwise, the revealing would be a more dramatic act. Okay.
Schwer is a person in the book.
Schwer is a okay. So coming back to the presentation, there are some words of warning I have to always bring at this point, because language models have the reputation of being problematic. Why do they have that? They are problematic. They are very problematic. And every half year, there's a big outcry on twitter.com about a language model reaching sentience, or a language model turning into a racist, turning into showing how racist it is, or something else nasty happening out there that is problematic. Why is that the case? Well, the model, as I just demonstrated by it bringing up these words and concepts, like knowing that something is not only the word, it's also Hatch City is a city. It kind of uses it as a city in the produced text. It does that, and that's amazing. It feels very magical, especially if it's your concept and suddenly the computer seems to understand what you have been writing about. That is just a magical power. The other magical power it has, it tries to please you. And that means it will answer all questions or try to continue any sentence, even if it makes no sense at all. The model seems to will appear as if it was steering somewhere, as if it had intentions. Well, it doesn't. But it will seem like that, which makes it seem sentient sometimes. And it is very creative with gender because it has somehow a very loose understanding, or it has no understanding of gender. It just goes with probability. Well, and that of course leads to a lot of problems. This whole probability thing. It was trained, we have the copyright law, so basically there is high quality material that is 70 years plus the death of the author years ago. From then, like books from Project Gutenberg and so on, full books, real literature, high quality writing. And then there is newer writing, and that is just websites that got a high score on Reddit. Great stuff. Wikipedia, which is also not entirely unbiased. A lot of questionable content with some models like GPT-2. We don't even know what it was trained on. So that means it just incorporates a lot of antiquated, I guess is the right pronunciation, values. It has a lot of racism in there. It has a lot of sexism in there. It has a lot of assumptions that we don't hopefully live by anymore in there. And it's just there because that's part of the history that was written by humans. And colonialism, don't get me started. The model will rather produce nonsense than saying, no, I can't help you with this. So if you give it a complete nonsensical prompt, it will try to work with that, even if it can't give you any reasonable answer. It will just do that. And then it writes language, and as such, we as humans assume that it has some anthropomorphic qualities, that it has intentions, sentience, and so on. Maybe not sentience, but some kind of will, some kind of direction that it chooses by itself. It just doesn't. It's just statistics. But maybe we are too. That's a question that is not that we will not answer in this short talk. And yes, your wife will be the son of our children now and then, and everything. And it's just very bad at all these. Like it just mixes up things, and sometimes in a very inspiring way, sometimes not. And whenever one of these models is unleashed onto the wild on its own, it inevitably leads to some horrible stuff happening, like Tay-Tweets, which was a Microsoft experiment. Tay-Tweets was a Twitter bot that learned from interacting with other users on Twitter. Imagine you would learn from other people on Twitter. You would also go... Well, it went very far south and then was shut down immediately by Microsoft because of tweets like this that it learned from the dear Twitter users. Then there was PhilosophyBot, for example, which is still on, but you can't discuss any problematic topics with it anymore because it's just, I mean, don't read this stuff. It's really infuriating. But it's no surprise because it just uses text from 2,000 years ago, 100 years ago, and that's where it takes its values from. And there is, of course, the eternal question of copyright. I'm very proud of this stock image copyright infringement, maybe, of a copyright sign. It's like there are assumptions that if you train a language model with copyrighted material, the copyright gets kind of flushed off because some kind of database law strikes that says if you can't reconstruct the original, the copyright is gone, and so on. But you will run into copyright, trademark problems, and so on anyway. And if you train one of these programming helper language models on open source software, the implications are also difficult, and there are too few court cases so far to say what is even going on. So it's like it's a problem. But let's go to something more lighthearted, and I'm handing over to Shar for that, or maybe it's not lighthearted for artists present anyway. Okay. Stopping.
I'm coming back. So our fourth experiment is going to be sparking inspiration with Midjourney. So a lot of creativity techniques rely on accessing your subconscious. So I've been writing to students for 7 years now. And one of the things that we're always doing is working with our subconscious. So we do writing with morning pages. We work with making little exercises with, say, tarot cards, where we arrange 3 in a row and then try to make a story that connects those 3 things together. And the whole idea behind this and so many other exercises that I run with my students is the idea of the human brain being a pattern recognition machine. And that, like, no matter what you kind of put in front of it, the human brain is going to be able to connect things together, make a little pattern, and then from that you get this feeling of meaning, a feeling of resonance. And that's part of what's so exciting about being a writer, is connecting things together and feeling that pattern recognition role. And so one of the things that I've been doing lately is I've been enjoying outsourcing my inspiration part to the machines, because, you know, I've been working hard at this stuff for a long time. And now I think it's time that I can just enjoy it and try and use it in a little bit of a more relaxing way. And so I've been doing this. Know what Midjourney is. It's basically I think it's probably slightly less well known than OpenAI's DALL-E 2, but basically you just give it a prompt and it brings you back imagery. And I believe that it has a direct line into our collective unconscious, and that we can feed it things and it's going to give us prompts, or it's going to bring back stuff from our prompts that then like helps us to kind of bounce back and forward even more. So they have a free trial, I feel like I need to say, because everything that we're saying to you today that you can do, you absolutely can do today for free, without needing anything else. The free trial doesn't last very long, but you can definitely get, I think, 25 or 30 prompts in before you need to pay the $10 a month that they're working on. Okay, so basically what I was doing is I've been kind of doing this thing where I bounce back and forth between Leica and Midjourney. And so again, we're working with the same content Mara introduced you to earlier, which is the Art of Time novel. So let's just say I have this idea: at the far end of town, past the ruined tower and the abandoned mine, lay the headquarters of the Amaranthine House. So this is what Midjourney gives me for that. And like, if you haven't used Midjourney before, this might be like, your mind might be blown at the idea that you can put those words into a Discord channel and in approximately 50 seconds get back an image of this quality. So I bring that in, and then I look at the picture, and I think about the picture, and I can see how that's going to bounce back and forward with what's coming. And then I bounce it into Leica and see what happens. The building's nothing more than dilapidated barracks for the most part, several stories high, cast in a dank pinkish hue from the coating of the river weed. So this is the thing now, I'm getting Leica though with this pink hue, but then I feed that into Midjourney, and now I'm getting this amazing looking building with this pinkish hue that's really like making me very, very, and starts to make me think about what's going to happen next, right, in this place. Almost think about it, you could make a whole graphic novel just using Midjourney and prompts that you're feeding and adding in things like, for me, I'm a writer, worked with words, that's my art. I cannot draw for the life of me, and I've always been so jealous of it. And I feel like in the last few months, getting to be part of the Midjourney community has allowed me to feel like I'm actually able to do art again. So now we have this pinkish place, and Ladakh, who's a character in the book, he's leaning in the doorway, smoking a pipe, watching for the return of the centuries. And whoops, so like bouncing back and forth. And then look at this beautiful thing. He's in the doorway. He's smoking his pipe. He's looking out at the forest, looking for the return of the centuries. It just really excites me so much. And then the last piece, so this is the last piece, just so you can see how much we could really make a little graphic novel, how much we could really illustrate something that feels so lifelike and real, is this, before dusk, a ragged soul appeared. And then we get back from the prompt, a wild-eyed girl, only half human, clad in a black cloak. And here she is, coming towards us. Clearly going to be doing something very exciting in the next sentence, once I get to the next sentence. So that's it. I feel like if you haven't tried it, absolutely try it. And if you're in there but you haven't tried using it with your own writing as a kind of thing to bounce back and forth from, it's absolutely like, it's like I don't know, it's like a kind of a candy for the brain. So yeah, give it a try. And now I'm going to bounce it back to Mar, who's going to tell you about sharing, how to use things to share the brain of another writer and work with that.
Okay. You're faster than me when it comes to screen sharing. All right, sharing the brain of another writer. So I've showed before how you can train in a very clumsy and inconvenient, but super workable and free way how to train a brain on your own writing. But of course, there are a lot of writers out there whose material is out of copyright and who you can legally use as a training material. Example of those are Dostoevsky or the Brothers Grimm or Jane Austen. Kafka, Marcus Aurelius, our favorite actually, he's very good for that. And this is more or less what we were aiming for with Leica. Just what we did was really only take what we shown you in the notebook before. So you can build your own stuff now. You can actually build what we have built with what we have just shown you. It's not easy, but you can. What we wanted to have is an easy way of using the brain juices of all of these different people in one fluent form. So I started a story here that reads, "It was indeed a night that had turned out rather dark." Yes, you know, it's I was very not very. I'm not. Yes, but it was like not really. But even the stars in the sky. Did I just? Yes, it worked good. Once more she drew back her sword, and again she was again in the courtyard. I don't like that, but this time there was a much larger crowd. Okay, I'm not sold. When the prince heard this, no, I'm not sold either. But the smell of blood wafted through the air, and the blood-shrouded king climbed up the tower like a lion to meet his prey. Okay, let's take this. Let's remove that part. Okay. So now we have a king in play. The tower stood tall. And I think we should channel some Kafka for continuing with this, because Kafka is very good at towers. And the ceiling had been painted in a dark, waxy yellow. We can't see the ceiling because we're outside. And dark, a monument to the past, and was surrounded by a deep gash in the wall which formed the entrance. Okay, let's clean. That's always K with Kafka, of course. The process is in there. The monument to the past was surrounded by a deep gash in the wall which formed the entrance. There is something wrong grammatically, but I'm not good enough to fix that now. I will just use everything we have written here. Yes, I've made the brain of God. And let's pick Frankenstein. Maybe Frankenstein. It looks like flowery enough writing that Frankenstein maybe can just get destroyed. A small crowd having assembled hastened to welcome the visitors. Alas, he was a dream and he perished. A few stones were thrown. I like the small crowd, but maybe there's different. I can switch between alternatives here very easily. So I entered it, and with difficulty entering the room in which it was situated. Corpses. My uncle saw it and telling, no, I'm not sold on Kafka in this case. I removed this. Let's give Jane Austen a try. That cannot possibly work, right? If I was born by a high chimney in the open air. Well, maybe. Maybe I'm not a writer. Okay, but you get the picture. You can switch between the different brains of different people, and very easily just write a sentence. If you don't know, if you have existential problems, for example, what is the meaning of life? Then you can ask. Base brain baby is always the best to ask. That's, as I said before, it is Marcus Aurelius. You can get meanings from that, but you can also do the thing I did above with switching between different brains and pushing a story in different directions. But I am out of my water as a non-writer.
The other thing that we wanted to say about this part with the sharing the brains of other writers is that you're not limited to the writers that we've chosen, and you're also not limited to doing this in Leica. We just do it because it's nice and easy to show it that way, and that's what we've Project Gutenberg. Any kind of well, you can get any book you like, but any kind of in public domain, out of copyright piece of work, you can create a brain using that, and you can train GPT-2 on that, like Martin showed you earlier, or you can use it in Leica if you like, anything like that you're interested in. So sharing a brain, you can share a brain with whoever you like, not just the people that we're interested in. Yeah.
Back to you, by the way.
Back to me. Okay, so then for my last little piece, we were going to have a look at making something together. So again, I'm going to just use Leica because that's what we can work with to make it together. But if you would like To do this again, you can do this using just GPT-2, using anything that you want. So, yes, I put this in earlier. I'm just going to get rid of this, and we'll just start. We'll just do something that's like maybe just 3 or 4 sentences long, using, for example, the Frankenstein brain. And because I feel like Frankenstein is very fitting for this kind of thing, because we're combining stuff. My idea for this, I do this little thing every Friday night Leica, where for an hour we just hang out and make a story together and take it in turns to choose what inference to use, take it in turns to say what happens next. So let's just start with the first line and then see what you guys have to add to it. Okay, so let's start. Frankenstein. Okay. Let's see. The old man waited by the dusty steps. He knew. Okay, I just made this up in this very moment, so let's just see what happens. So I'm going to click magic and see what we get for this. So maybe the old man enters, or walked in. I think I like this third piece. If anyone has any ideas for what you would like to see happen next, please just pop it in the chat. I can see it there out of the corner of my eye. But for me, I'm going to say Felix the Porter, Jr. And with the package. Leaning on a chair. Let's just say leaning on the arm of a servant, right? I mean, we can choose. We are not bound by anything here. So what should happen next? I like that, Amy. That's that's basically my life. That's where I am and what I'm doing with my day these days. But for this, let's see what we want to put in next. So what happens? So we've got the house, we've got the package, we've got a servant. Felix is the porter. We don't know the name of the old man, but what could happen next? Furtively, it's definitely furtive. Whatever he's doing is furtive. Furtively, he opened the package and saw, I don't know what it is, so let's find out. We'll just ask Leica to tell us what happens next. Oh, a small silver dagger. Oh, I like that. Shivering with horror. Okay. Strange ball. Flesh of a young goat. Lord. Or a small yellow book, evidently the Bible. My goodness. Okay, so I'm going to need some help here. Do we want to go for the small silver dagger? Do we want to go for the strange bowl, which is the flesh of a young goat? Or do we want to go for the yellow Bible? The book, the bowl, the dagger. That's 3. I need a tiebreaker. Bible, dagger, bowl. Mark, can you do a quick count and pick one?
It looks like dagger.
It looks like dagger.
Yeah.
Okay. So then we will go back to the dagger.
You can't ponder a dagger, right?
You can't ponder a dagger. I mean, maybe it gleams a little. Okay. He saw a small, and so I think he will shiver with horror because this probably has some kind of strange meaning, right? So I don't think any of this other stuff is very interesting. So I just end it there. So just showing you how we work this stuff. We don't, yeah, bull was robbed, Irf, and I'm with you on that. I think the fleshy bull is very creepy, very much like the kind of thing I want to go for. Okay, but let's see. So let's go. We have maybe 2 more lines and then we'll finish up here. So shivering with horror, he placed it on the table. So what do we think this dagger means? Shivering with horror, he placed it on the table. He knew what this meant. At least somebody knows what it means. He knew what this meant, and he knew now who would come at dawn. It would be, let's find out. An ambush. Okay, really liking that. Or it would be him. Okay, that's a little too dicey. Or it would be his task to dispel the fiend. Okay, I like his task to dispel the fiend and protect the people. I also like it'll be an ambush. I don't think the middle one is very interesting, unless we're thinking about a situation where he is some kind of doppelganger, or he has a doppelganger. Does anyone have any thoughts on what should be the choice here?
Everyone is for the fiend.
Everyone is for the fiend. Excellent. Excellent. Finally, some good choices here. It will be his task to protect them. So I think we can also make them a little more interesting. The household. And to dispel the fiend before they could inflict mortal harm. Okay, I'm really into this ambush business.
Upon them?
Upon
the household,
them. Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah. Upon them all. Okay, so let's take one more line and a finisher. So he knew this meant, he knew it would come at dawn. I would come to him. His task to protect household. Okay, so definitely it's the fiend. So perhaps there's like a little knocking. I like, Annie, you say dun dun dun. That makes me think of a kind of a knock on the door. So I'm kind of feeling that. The hours ticked past, and the sun glowed. I don't know. The sun rose. That's what the sun does. Okay. The sun rose. Dawn was here. And upon the door, a knocking. A rapping. Thank you, storyteller Kim. A rapping commenced. The fiend was here. Okay, let's see what the ending is. Oh, I've stretched. Okay, thanks, Leica. Great job. Or hurried to open the door, hiding myself under the table. I'm in the story. It's all a dream. The servant unlocked the door, and the fiend fled. Murder of our family. Okay, I think we can do something with this, but we needed to be fancy somehow. The fiend was here. The servant unlocked the door. That miserable wretch. Swore to protect us. He opened the door. Only to discover the adversary. Okay, I think the family get murdered, guys. I'm sorry. I don't think, like with all of these stories, if you have a look on Twitch, I have some videos of previous ones we've done with Edgar Allan Poe and Frankenstein. It never ends well. It never ever ends well with these co-creation tales, but it's very good fun. So thank you for making this with me. I will take a little screenshot to have later. And I'm going to go back to my slides here. Because I wanted to mention to you all, if you like the look of what we're doing here with Leica, if you go to writewithleica.com, Mar, maybe you just want to type that into the chat, and apply for the beta. At the moment, we're completely free. We are basically an educational project being funded through the ITU University in Copenhagen. We're hoping to turn it into something commercial some type form. Mention NarraScope. I will add you and give you a free account tomorrow, and then you can come in and make your own brains. For everything else that you want to do, head over to tunguska.ai/NarraScope, and there you'll find the links to Ephemerald, to the collaboratory notebooks, to the GPT-2 work, to Midjourney, to Leica, and to a whole host of really cool stuff to do with AI and writing, including like Lynn Cherney's newsletter, which is amazing, and Janelle Shane's AI Weirdness newsletter, and a ton of other things that might be useful for you if you've enjoyed this work. And with that, with 7 minutes to go, I can't believe we did this, we are open for questions.